go, baby. 2 days in a row. What do you know about it? It's pumping it out. Pumping out the content for the people.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm just so excited for football. I can do this every day.
This is the best. This is the greatest. It's so awesome that we get to do this for our full-time job. You know what I mean? Like every day we wake up and we get to do this. It's because of, our fans, our viewers. So thank you.
Sponsors too. Yeah.
Sponsors. Yeah. Don't forget the sponsors. I'm sure we're going to have a lot of ad reads this year. So, be ready for those and shout out to everyone who's paying us to do stuff like this.
Mm-hmm. Appreciate it. Without you guys, we wouldn't be able to, keep this going. It's all you.
Yeah, it's a big production. We got a huge staff, very high-end equipment that we're working with every day. So it's awesome. Awesome stuff.
I will say on that note, we currently have 42 writers that work for us. We are looking for a 43rd. If anybody wants to apply, let us know.
We're pretty selective about it. So, we're not just going to let anybody do it. But if you feel like your writing style matches the kind of content that we put out here, we'd love to hear from you.
Please. Yep. That's all we'll say about that. We don't want to advertise too many applications.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll get flooded already.
Yeah. I mean, we want to hire the people that listen to this podcast. So if you're listening, I'm talking to you. All right.
Well, we got double-digit listens the last couple episodes. Double-digit. We're moving up in the world. So,
jeez.
Just saying.
It. All right. What are we talking about today, Chip? What's the goal?
We are doing a little debate back and forth. You and me, mano a mano, rule change potentials, the things that are on the ballot still. So we're talking about whether or not we should add a third flex, whether we should keep our bench spots the exact same or remove them by one, or remove one bench spot. And we're talking about whether or not we should add an IR spot or keep it the same.
Yeah. A lot of roster configuration. Glad we got the scoring part handled. Now we're talking about roster. That's good. Good sequence. Okay. Man, how many years ago did we get rid of kickers and defenses?
Has to be at least 3 years ago.
Yeah, I think we've had 3 years.
I think we've had 3 seasons with 2 flexes, no kicker and defense.
Yeah, that was such a great change.
An amazing change. I was always a big proponent of no kicker and defense, and I think adding another flex was a fantastic change that we made. And I'd like to just kind of start it off there. We went from having, quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, tight end, 1 flex, defense and kicker, removing defense and kicker and adding a flex.
Yeah.
And I think that elevated the competitiveness of the league, and it made it a little bit more engaging. You're really having to delve deeper into the rankings to understand where some value is, how you can exploit that later on. And it kind of shows who has their wits about them all the way down the fantasy roster. And I feel that way about a third flex. I think that, we've been at 2 for a while. I think 2's been great. But I really feel like when you look at people's rosters top to bottom to include bench and starting positions, I think pretty much everyone in the league has 1 or 2 guys that I think should be starting in a fantasy football league. And I think that adding a third flex makes it a little bit more competitive. It's going to increase the need for trades and waiver wire decisions. And I think that overall it's going to be a net positive to the league. It increases scoring. Everyone likes to score more, regardless of the fact that there's another position. Just the fact that the scores are higher, it makes it more fun. And those deep cuts, when you have a guy that you're really high on in the 10th, 11th round, that might only be your second or third bench spot. He might get elevated to that flex spot if he starts popping off, and it really pays dividends. I've been going on a little monologue here. I'd love to hear your take on it, Matt. If you are, pro third flex or anti third flex, or where you stand on the issue.
Yeah, I'm gonna say my stance in a second. I'm gonna add a couple things. I think I would want to look back, but I'm pretty sure when we did that change, I think we did add a bench spot too. I think we did push for that.
Yes, I believe you're correct.
But I think me and you definitely were pushing for that. And I know I was on that side of adding a bench spot, adding a flex, and that came from, just like you said, the ability to be able to recognize the late round picks and recognize who are these guys that I can throw on my bench and I Because I think that shows deeper fantasy knowledge, right? Not just to have the top guys, but to have the sleeper picks. And that was where that kind of came from, adding that other flex, adding that. Because I feel like I draft good teams with depth, and I want to be able to use that depth to my advantage by having more flex spots where I can have that advantage over people that don't have that. But one thing I've realized, and this is a different debate, but it ties in, I promise, is that like we've talked about the significance of a wide receiver and a running back in years past. Like me, you, Parker. I know Parker's talked about this a lot, of like how these wide receivers can have these big explosive games. And honestly, putting those guys in your flex is a great strategy because they're a little bit more hit and miss, but when they hit big. When like some running backs, they have a good game, they put up 10, 11 points. It's great.
Yep.
And with that in mind, the more flexes we have, it kind of, yes, you can reward those guys that have the deeper picks, but it also gives you more room to throw those shotguns. Like to throw 3 wide receivers in those 3 flex spots, all you need is one of them to hit. The other 2 can bust on the week, but one of them hits big enough, it hits. So you're really giving more room for error and catching those explosions more. So I got 3 flexes, sweet, I only need 1 guy to hit. If I had 1 flex, now you got to pick the right one out of the 3 to throw in. And so part of me has now gone the other direction of like, we're making it easier to catch those explosions. Yes, if I can hit 3 for 3, it's great. But like in a league of 10 guys, the odds of my opponent hitting 3 for 3 is low. So I actually have a better chance. I want the one big explosion. Let me throw 3 guys that all have upside. And I'm guessing my opponent's only going to hit 1 or 2 decent flexes. But if I can hit 1 big explosion, so you could care less about the I don't know. Tell me what your thoughts about on that idea.
Then it almost sounds like you're arguing for my point with what you're saying. I think that it's missing a little. You're missing a little bit there. So you're saying that you have 3 flexes, so you only need 1 to go off. Well, you would only need 1 to go off if you were going against 1 flex. If you had 3 flexes and your opponent had 1 flex, you'd only need 1 to go off, right?
Sure.
But if your opponent also has 3 flexes, everyone's drafting from the same board, right? So all of their flexes are tiered similarly, depending on how you draft, if you prioritize certain things versus others. But I think that adding a 3rd flex creates a little bit more of a paradigm shift in how you value other positions, and it rewards certain drafting styles. But I think the idea that if you only go to 1, then it's better or more beneficial. Well, if let's say you're drafting and you draft your starters first, all of your starters go first before you do any bench spots. Mm-hmm. So if you've got quarterback, wide receiver, running back, tight end, flex, that's 7 rounds, right? So all of your guys are coming from the first 7 rounds. Like your flex is coming in one of the first 7 rounds. But as you go deeper and deeper, you're adding 8th and 9th round in there. That's, again, assuming you draft all 9 positions in those 9 first rounds. Sure. So everyone coming from the 7th level or higher, you're going to have a higher hit rate. Whereas when you go lower, it's about finding those gems so that you can have your 2nd and 3rd flexes be the ones that pop off relative to your league mates. When you reduce it just to 1, the chances that you're going to have that flex position be a very high scoring spot is very high.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I guess I'm leaning towards with a 10-team league, which is always a funny thing we've never talked about on this podcast. Is like I hear on other podcasts a lot of shit talk towards like 10-team leagues. People think like the teams are too good in a 10-team league, which adding more roster spots like thins that out, which helps that argument. But in a 10-team league, we do have good teams across the board. So like that's where I just feel like we're all going to have good flexes. Kind of your point, if you only have 1 spot, like everyone's flex is going to be pretty good. So we need to like value those gems late rounds. But what I want is just I want better start-sit decisions. Harder start-sit decisions.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the more flexes, like the easier the choice is. Because I'm like, I can throw, like for me, like I know my late rounds picks. I feel good about my late round picks. And that's what you're trying to talk about valuing. But it doesn't make a decision for me. I'm like, here's my first 7, like you said. And then I kind of know my next 2 pretty clearly. Like there's usually a wide gap on my bench of like, here's are my best next flex options. And then I have these guys I hope due to injury, other things can break out, and then maybe they can swap in. But when you get to bye weeks and you get to injuries, there's really not much choice. Like when I got two guys injured, one guy on bye, okay, like I'm down between two players now for my third flex. When if I had one flex or two flexes, I got to make a choice out of 4 or 5 guys, and so I just want that mid-season choice to be harder. That's where I think a lot of what we're going to talk about today, even when we get to the bench spot and get to other things, I want my mid-season management. I want it to be harder. I want there to be more difficulty with those choices, which then will make more difficult choices in trades, waivers, everything. Like it all trickles down. But if we feel content,
so you're selling trickle down economics to me now. That worked out so well.
If we feel content with our starting rosters, we won't feel the need to go make trades, go do the waivers, go do those things. If it makes an easy choice, so yeah.
And I think it's just a matter of perception, because I would contend that having a third flex would make that decision harder, because you have to, that decision that player has to hit, right, in order to stay competitive. Like you're talking about bye weeks and injuries and things. That's all part of it. It's all part of the, and maybe this is kind of, I think I know where you stand on the bench piece, but if we're in a situation where you have 3 flexes and the bench is so small that you have a few people on that are injured and you only have 1 or 2 guys that you're choosing between, that sounds like a fault in the bench size and not the starting roster. So that would be my contention.
Yeah. And that's where a lot of these, what we're talking about today, I feel like contingency on each part. Like if we're going to add a flex, then I don't know how much I want to mess with the bench. Like there's like, they kind of go hand in hand to me. I'm pro no flex, by the way. I love our 2. It's like half point PPR. Sure. I think we found a sweet spot with 2 flexes. I don't know.
I think we should talk about how we're going to do these votes, so it's a little bit more clear when we're debating these. So the way it's going to work is we're going to do all of these votes individually, sequentially. So we're going to vote on the flex as a league first without considering the bench or the IR. And then once we've established the starting roster, we're going to go just to the bench and decide whether or not it's going to stay the same or decrease in size. And then once that decision is made, we will then vote on IR. So to your point about the contingency, completely valid point, and I have the same thought about it. I just want to put it out there to the league that when we make these decisions, you won't have to worry about, I want to make this bench decision, so I want to do this. Like we'll just vote on them one at a time. That way there's no if this, then that kind of voting.
Yeah. Good point. So where are you standing on the flex buy? It sounds like you're pushing for the third, but like if you don't have to reveal your vote, I guess. I don't want to do that, but
I would vote for a third flex. I think that it adds just another level to the league. When we went from 1 flex to 2 flexes, there was definitely people who had pushback, and I think that every single one of those people now would never go back to 1 flex. I know you're kind of bringing it up, but I don't think you really mean that. I think you're just kind of pushing it. You're just using it as contrast. As contrast. I don't think anyone in the league would ever go back to 1 flex. And I think 3 flexes, it's just going to keep going in a good direction. And like we talked about before, rule changes don't have to be permanent. If we do this and it doesn't work out, 2 flexes next year. But I would really like to experiment with it and see how we like it as a league.
Yeah, I will say I wouldn't even say I'm anti 3 flexes. I was kind of just making the case. I just really like our 2. But I honestly would not lose an ounce of sleep over the thought of 3. I'm like, all right, let's do it. Let's run it. Yeah. So yeah. I would be curious to see how it feels. I know this year in Dynasty we're going 3. So
more scoring, deeper draft picks that are going to actually have impact on your team. So it's going to make that night even more impactful. The waiver wire picks are going to be that much more important, regardless of what we do with the bench size, because there's going to be more people in your starting roster. So the odds that you're going to pick someone up off the waiver that is going to be impactful to your team and not just an insurance policy is much higher. It's going to increase trading because you're going to have like you balance the high highs with the depth. Like for example, the trade that I made with Cody last year where I traded Jamar for T and Josh Jacobs. It's a move in that, with having that second flex, that makes sense because, taking away that ceiling, but adding of the depth and the floor piece. So I think there's a lot of great things about it. I'd love to see some text sent about it here in the next couple of days and see where we land with a vote.
Let me say this before we move on. I'm really internalizing. I'm thinking here, and you know where my argument strives from. I feel like I'm going to be annoyed one, I just love a good fantasy play where someone's like, I believe in this guy.
Yeah.
I'm going to play this guy. And then they go off and everyone's like, dude, you called your shot. That's crazy. Like, I would never have started him. And what I'm afraid of is we're going to have a moment. We got 3 flexes. You got guys on bye, guy injured. You don't have a choice. And somebody's like, well, shit, I guess I'll play this guy. And they don't actually believe in him. But they had to fill a roster spot. They throw him in, and then he succeeds. And everyone's like, oh yeah, no, I knew he was going to do great. And I'm just like, like the fantasy.
So what you're worried about? You're worried about someone making a right decision and it undermining your perceived value of your ability to draft and value players.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I'm like, you're getting lucky. You have an extra spot. You threw someone in. You got a. I'm like, I want you to make the hard choice. Which, hey, like, no, that's more of a I gotta go to therapy and deal with that myself. You know.
Yeah. That's between the ears. I think that one's a little bit upstairs. You know.
I think that's where I'm striving from because I want people to value it. Yeah. No, it's good. It's good. It's fine.
You want to make sure that when you lap the league next year, like you did last year, everyone's talking about it and talking about how great it was, right?
Yeah,
you're just picturing yourself on top of the mountain, looking down on the small peasants and how bad they are at fantasy football. And you think that if you give them a third flex, they have a chance to succeed, and that's just not acceptable in Matt Russ's book.
You got to put the work in. You got to put the work in for those people. Jeez.
Back in my day.
All right, let's get to the bench. It's going to be a similar debate here, I think.
Yeah. Lead us off.
All right, so currently we have 7 bench spots. I feel like I do, and I'm tooting my own horn, I feel like I do a decent job of having depth. And if things stay the same, I hope I can continue to have that depth and trade that and do that. But the waiver wire is a barren wasteland. There's one guy, maybe 2 every year in week 1 or 2. But I want that fab and that waiver wire to be a thing where people are, again, making hard decisions. I really just want to – everything I'm pushing for is pushing for fantasy knowledge. And you and I talked about this once about, like, draft season is being able to understand value and understand people's potential. And then I think waiver wire midseason is being able to then watch some games and be able to then make that switch. Be like, wow, look at this guy. He's flashing on screen. He's not getting the usage. I think he will later. And I want those midseason management pieces to be able to, like, people, again, to show their fantasy knowledge and make big decisions.
I think you're conflating 2 things here. Your big point is that the waiver wire is only ever good for 1 or 2 players in week 1 or 2. And excuse me, I think what you're talking about really is guys that reach the elite level ceiling from the waiver wire. You're talking about Puka Nacua. You're talking about Kyron Williams. I believe he was a waiver wire pickup his rookie year. Like guys that no one expects to be that guy and then come and have a top 5, top 10 finish at their respective position. No amount of bench spot change is going to change that. We could have had 1 bench spot those years, and Puka Nacua is still the only true valuable waiver wire pickup that year, right? So to your point about having the fantasy knowledge and having the ability to analyze players and pick them up, wouldn't you want to have more spots and more opportunities to analyze and say, no, I'm taking a shot on this guy. I want this guy on my team because I see him playing on Sundays and he's getting after it. I want to take the chance on that lottery ticket, which you would not be able to do if you were limited in your bench spots because you'd have guys who are, without a question, need to be rostered. I think we can all agree there's a certain threshold of guy that should be rostered. And then there's kind of the guys that you can churn on the waiver. So when you're dropping the amount of bench spots you have, you're limiting yourself. You're handcuffing your ability to go off and make that call, make that speculative call, especially if you are a better drafter, because then you're finding those values at the draft and you have no room for error on the waiver wire. So I think I agree with the sentiment behind every point that you've made, but I think you're taking a different approach to it than I think would make sense.
I think I can, like you said, value the drafter. I think I can take those shots, like you said, and call my shot and put that guy on my team and say, I believe in this guy. But I don't think there's risk involved. It's like I can take him with my last pick in the draft, and I can hold him for 6 weeks because I have the space. And that doesn't scream like loyalty to me. That screams like, I believe in this guy, I want to take a shot, And I have the freedom to wait 8 weeks. And I'm like, no, I want you to take your shot. I want you to make the hard decision week in, week out.
But Matt, what I'm saying is that last round pick is the pick that you would drop for the waiver wire pick. That is where the value is. When you start cutting down the bench spots, then we're at 7 right now. So if you go down to 6, then we're at 14 rounds in the draft. And I really think that there are guys that are 13 round and higher, especially in the 12th round, that like are 100% have to be rostered, right? So then you're talking about 1, maybe 2, maybe 0 spots where you can play with guys who can legitimately justifiably be dropped. I think that it's like counterproductive to the idea of reviving the waiver wire and calling your shot, because there's going to be so many people on the waiver wire that are justifiably rostered that you can just close your eyes and pick because they should be rostered to begin with.
I don't know. I feel like, because obviously we know with bye weeks and injuries, like the people you have draft day is vastly different than later on.
Yes.
Like that already changes, which maybe is your point. Like we are using the waiver wire. We just we don't really recognize the value that we're using. But I think it just, again, makes decisions harder. Like a Dalton Kincaid, a Kyle Pitts, they're right now going so late in drafts. Like Kyle Pitts is tight end 18, Kincaid's like tight end like 14,
right?
Maybe 12. Like, and with a 10-team league, like, yeah, you're right. Those guys would be on the waiver. And damn, that is a risky. Like, as much as like Kyle Pitts is Kyle Pitts, I still would be nervous to pick him up if I have the select limit on my bench space. But like, if I really believe in Kyle Pitts and I roster him, like, I just think people have to make more legit choices and not just safe decisions and hold them and do that. Like, I'm sorry. There we go. I switched.
Back. Hold on. It says, you good now?
Yeah, sorry.
It says that,
I had an alarm go off. Yeah.
Okay. All right. We're back. Yeah. Sorry. You're good. Keep going.
I had week in, week out me swap people on the waiver. I was grabbing people every week, throwing them on the end of my bench in hopes that maybe this running back got injured this weekend. Like, I'd grab a guy on Friday because I had space, knowing that this guy could get injured Sunday, and then I already have a gym. Like, it's good management to like keep that moving.
Yeah.
But I didn't have any risk. There was 0 risk involved because I could just freely grab guys when I wanted because I had space. And I'm like,
but wouldn't the inherent risk decrease the overall like fantasy knowledge required to succeed? Because you're increasing risk for everyone equally. So it's just going to make the waiver wire there's just more out there to choose from, right? So you're not able to call your shot on Puka Nacua because Puka doesn't even, let's say he doesn't get picked up, or there are guys who are ranked so much higher. And I'm using Puka as an example because it's the only one I can remember off the top of my head. But you get my point, right? You don't have the ability to call your shot because it's like, well, shoot, there's this guy who like he should go off. I don't, it's like, but there's a deeper stash later on that would maybe be a more higher IQ play if that's the angle you're trying to take with it.
I think with more decisions becomes more failures too. Like every year, there's guys I have on my roster that I think look good, but I know they're done. They're done for the season. Like I see their usage going down. I'm like, they're screwed. And I try to trade them. I know you do the same thing. We're like, shit, I got to trade this guy before everybody else realizes he's not going to be good the rest of the season. I trade on high value. I think one tactic I'm outing myself by saying this if we get there, that I would love to employ that I never have gotten to because of our waiver wire situation is dropping landmines is what I call it and what I've heard about. Where I drop that guy, I call my shot. He's done for the season. I'm going to go grab this guy off the waiver. Somebody sees, holy shit, Matt dropped this guy. He's done. Let me go add him. And I just put a landmine on his roster. They put him in the starting lineup, and boom, that guy plummets. And I'm like, hell yeah. Like, wouldn't you much rather
do that in a trade? Because when you're dropping the landmine,
can't get it done, sadly.
Because the rosters are so shallow that you can go pick up a guy. So I think that if you want more trades, what you need to do is keep the bench the same or increase it. If you want trades, it's supply and demand. If there is supply to get something for free, why would you pay for something?
Mm-hmm.
If there's no supply, and no matter how much you pay, there's nothing to buy, and your only opportunity is to trade to get what you need, you're going to make those trades. And I think that all of these rule changes are with the goal of participation and trades and waiver wire, all increasing. And I think, it's my opinion, that waiver wire ads are not nearly as fun to talk about or to discuss or to even process and go through the steps of making a trade. Making a trade is the peak of fantasy football
My favorite thing, yeah, for
outside of winning the championship, which I hope to one day be a part of. It's the most fun thing you can do. So I think that taking that away by dropping the amount of bench spots that we have is a detriment to the league and is counterproductive to what we are trying to accomplish as a league.
I'll say too, like, I know I'm an extremist where I'm like I said, I'd drop 2 bench spots, and some of the I will consent that a lot of what you're saying I agree would be crazy, but dropping 1 bench spot that puts 10 extra players out there, 10 players on the waiver wire. I don't think that really that doesn't have an inflation. That doesn't cause inflation on the waiver wire. I think those 10 guys are still tough. And I just think that last guy on my bench, I'm usually just holding for weeks and hope for injury. And I just don't think that's like, I don't know. It just feels too safe to me and not like zero risk. And I just want, hey, the injury happens, and now that guy's a prized possession on the waiver wire. Now we have a bidding war. That's what the Fab's for. And I just want more bidding wars on that guy. Like, as much as I wish I still had that guy. Now it's fun to like, oh gosh, what is that guy going to go bid? I want Tuesday and Wednesdays during the week to feel so much more fun for that regard. When that waiver comes through at noon on Wednesday, like, I want to be running to my phone to see what happened. And that happens like once or twice throughout the season. And I want it a week in, week out, like, oh my gosh, this happened. I don't know. I just think that could be a lot more fun. But yeah, taking away 2 or 3, I hear you. But I'm going back to like, I don't think it's too inflating to your point you're making. I don't think it's going to change it that much. I think it's a little bit in the right direction, personally.
It's a slippery slope. It's how it always starts. I don't think it'll change too much. And next thing you know, there's no trades happening. The waiver wire has people on there that you should be starting on your roster, and you don't know which one's
like
up.
Should be starting. Who decides that? Like, should be starting on your roster. We're adding 3. If we had 3 flexes, like, same thing, slippery slope. Before, we're going to be in a best ball league. You're starting all your guys. Everybody you draft gets started. Like, it can go either way. Like, of this, slippery slope that you're discussing. I don't know.
Well, I think something that we may agree on here is the IR spot, which is to say that I think we should increase it regardless of either vote. I think that we should get another IR spot. I think it hurts the league zero. It causes zero detriment to the league to give guys an opportunity to keep guys who get injured, who are only going to be injured for a few weeks, and not have to make, really difficult drop decisions, because I just don't think that's right personally. And I especially think that should be the case if we drop a bench spot, because I think it would be incredibly penalizing if we did not increase the IR and dropped a bench, which I don't think we should do either. But Matt, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I agree with what you said there, with the fact that and this is what the tough part about the voting thing. I know we're doing the right thing to do sequential. I personally would only remove a bench if we're adding an IR. So that is tough with the back-to-back votes. Like, that is actually what I'm pushing for, is I put it this way, turn a bench spot into IR. That's like what I'm pushing. Not like, I don't know how I feel about if we keep it and add an IR. I actually don't know if I would go for that.
But why?
Similar to my other argument, I just feel like people, again, are safer. Like, I already think 7 bench spots in the IR, really you got 8 spots there, kind of. And then if you go 7 bench spots to IR, now we got 9 spots you can really hold. Like, people can just get really greedy. So I like 6 bench to IR. And what that does is, like, if you have everybody healthy, well, good. Like, then you get to hold your 6. But it only, like, the rich get richer in a way. It's like the only, like, if you have everybody healthy, then, hey, good for your team, because there's a lot of teams out there that don't have everybody healthy. So you should only have 6 spots. But if you got guys injured, then you can throw them on. You can add some bench pieces. I don't know. That's where I'm at. I mean, do you see it as like 2 different things? Like,
do I see it as 2 different things? What do you mean?
I'm sorry. As like I said, they kind of go hand in hand. As in, like, turning a bench spot into an IR. Like,
do
you see that as 2 separate pieces?
Yeah, 100%. I would like to keep the bench the same and add an IR spot. I think the
Yeah.
IR and bench serve completely different purposes. The idea that it's like a rich get richer thing, I don't think that's the case at all. If you have guys that are getting injured,
Hmm.
you should not be penalized for the fact that your first, two of your first five draft picks got injured, and now you have to drop guys that you would really like to roster, effectively decreasing your bench size. I just think that's an unfair punishment to, you know, uh, one of your guys getting hurt is already punishment. I don't think
Yeah.
we should double down on the lack of production in your starting roster positions by increasing the punishment that is applied to your bench. I just don't think that.
I guess let me put it this way. Like to me, that last bench spot, that seventh spot, like that guy is not valuable really much at all. Like that's why I'm willing
I
to
don't
drop
know,
him.
man. I think you got to go back and look at some of these rosters that people have put together over the last couple of years. Like, you should take a look at. I think there are a lot of cases where that last spot
Okay,
is valuable.
my last spot, Cody's last spot, that's valuable because we have deep teams. But most teams, sorry, too far. No, like again, out of the 10 teams, like I think there's 2 or 3 guys that if they were on a different roster, they would have been cut. Like they don't have room. Like there's guys in our league that have 2 guys on their bench that would not make anybody like other guys' rosters in the league. Like that's where I'm kind of saying is that like if we dropped that 10th guy, the deeper teams lose that 10th guy that is startable in your opinion. But the guys that are in the pits that are not don't have a deep roster, they could really use that 10th guy on a deep roster. So what I'm saying is it makes the league more competitive across the board.
I think it
So
makes it
that
easier, which is the opposite of competition.
no,
Because
the start
your point is that the people who are doing
teams get
well
better.
have
Yeah,
too good of a. I think that's the epitome of competition. When you have a situation where a good team can be good and show how great they are, and a bad team is truly punished for not being good and missing on the spots where the good team did well, that is the
hmm
epitome of competition.
no, that's the epitome of competition at the draft. That means you drafted a bad team, and now you can sit back and watch PMLP the rest of the season because you can't compete because
And you
there's
can
nobody on
make
the waiver wire.
trades, and you can make trades and
Trade
reach out.
what?
You
You're
can
a
trade
terrible
Jamar.
bitch.
You could trade the number one wide receiver in.
You're,
I mean, it happened last year. I traded Jamar, who was a wide receiver one, for a wide
Mhm.
receiver and a running back that were both top 10 or 15 in their position. So it's like these moves do happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but what just happened is Cody, who already had a really good team, traded 2 pieces to
Yep.
get one
Yep.
and get even better. So again, traded his depth because he had the depth to get better and go win a championship. You got depth, made your team better, never got out of the pits because of it. Like what I'm saying is like Cody, who already had a good team, got richer. Your team got better, but not to the point where you could get out of the playoff, like get into the playoffs. If you could do that and add some guys on the waiver, you could round your team out and really get to the playoffs. Like it's not enough. The trade is not enough in my opinion, and that's what I mean. Like those, we need it more competitive mid-season so people can can change their season, can change it around, and have that competitiveness. Now it's still there because me as a good team or somebody with a good team, I'm just using last year as an example.
Mhm.
Obviously, there's years I did not have a good team. I'm using last year. Like me as a good team, I can also still play that waiver wire. It's not just the bad teams go get the waiver wire pickups, but it's competitive every week on there. They have the opportunity to go get those pickups and become better. But I can also play defense and really keep getting those pickups and do that.
But
So
to your point
just,
again, last year
competition.
you're talking about how everyone on your roster was valuable. You're talking about your 10th guy last year was valuable. The 10th guy on Cody's team last year was valuable. So you're not able to play that waiver wire game.
But if I have one less spot, they're gone. And then now, like,
And then it's
I do
even
want to
more
swap.
amplified. Then you already, and then the 10th guy was valuable. Think about how much more valuable the 9th guy was. You're definitely not dropping that guy. So
Yeah. Well, I might if somebody else is good. Like, if that 10th guy blows up.
sounds like we're going to be agreeing to disagree on this one, because I think we could talk ourselves in circles for a long time on this issue.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I agree. I agree. We can talk forever. I hear you. We need to wrap it up. I want to say this though. Last thing about the IR spot. I guess that's my part. Is that if I have a deep 7 roster spot, someone gets injured, that is penalty. But in our current situation, I think it's deep enough that if someone gets injured, like I can hold that injury guy and he can take up a bench spot because I think we have enough spots. Like I don't know. That's where I'm like, if
I
he's
just
injured,
think that in the event, let's say, for example, in the event that a team that's very good, in your case, last year, let's say one of your top guys, two of your top guys get injured, and then you have to drop guys on your bench that you think are very valuable. You're already losing the production in your starting roster by having those guys be on the IR. I don't think you should be penalized a second time for not being able to pick someone up off of the waiver wire, which again, to your point, was what you were trying to get out of this league, is having more waiver wire pickups. I think that not adding an IR spot prevents more waiver wire pickups. So
yeah,
that's where I'll leave it on that.
All right. Yeah. Oh man, I'm excited to hear what everybody else has to say. Like, I think we threw a lot of points out on both sides that, guys, listen to this. Like, please, like comment on this. Like, in the chat, like, throw it up. Points you agree with that Chip made, points you agree with that I made. Like, let's hear it all.
And I think the most important thing is I don't care how the votes go. I want to know what PML thinks. Who won these arguments? Did Matt win the argument, or did I win the argument? Because at the end of the day, fantasy is fantasy. I'm not very good at it, but if I can win an argument, that will get me through. So if I could just get some opinions on that, that would be big time.
Let's add that to the poll. Who won the argument?
Who won the argument? Yeah.
That's good.
That'd be awesome. I appreciate that. All right. Anything else, Matt? What you got for us?
Gosh, I just love doing this because I can feel football being close.
I know, dude. It's right
so
there.
Close.
I was looking at something. I don't remember when it was, but it's like 35 days until. That's what it was. It was in the draft. Like 35, 34 now days until the draft. Like, we are almost a month out. I'm so excited. It's like the gap between the draft and the first week of the season feels like a year, because it's like everyone's talking shit about their team and they're so excited. But from right now until the draft seems like a millennium, because it's like all I want to do is get to the draft. And at least in that week, you have something to look at. Look at my team, and you can talk about it. Right now, it's just like I'm going stir crazy thinking about who I'm going to draft.
Dude, and your fingers start hurting from all the mock drafts that you're going through.
Many.
It's like, come on, I just want to do the real thing.
I know.
Oh my gosh, it's gonna be so much fun.
Oh my gosh, I love it. All right, well, let's play this music and get out of here, brother.
Yeah.
Man.
Cheers to everybody. Come on, give me some balloons. Give me something.
I don't know how to do it. Thumbs up does something usually.
Hey!
Let's go. Oh man, I have no idea how to do it, but we love it. All right, guys. Love you guys. Take it easy.